urgently begin to strictly regulate migration, they're basically saying that the CIA and MI6 are going to activate terror cells within these migrants. Can you see how they're setting this up? And then there was a statement from the For Family Party, which of course is part of the government. The best means of combating migration and, as a consequence, crime and terrorism, because, you know, only people with brown skin commit crimes. Did you not know that? Apparently, yeah, no.
I had heard that rumor, but I still didn't believe it.
No, funny that, isn't it? And anyway, it says here, as a consequence, crime and terrorism is strong and multi-generational. Large families and other indigenous peoples of Russia. Oh, so basically, if you have a large family as well, you're much more prone to crime, according to them. Right, so, yeah. Migration has come to where we are dying out. Therefore, the time has come to realize this and revive our 1,000-year-old Russia with its 1,000-year-old traditional, spiritual, and moral values. Pardon? Traditional, spiritual, and moral values. Traditional. They got that bit right. Not sure about the others though. That seems a bit. What? Yeah. Moral. Morality, would you believe? Anyway. A Russian historian, Mikhail Smolin, about migrants, stating the terrorist attack at Crocus City Hall showed how easily Islamists who come into our country, in their words, supposedly driving citizens in taxis, have become, under the influence of propaganda and money, insane terrorist killers. Because, yeah, you know, that happens all the time. Taxi drivers become insane killers. Maybe one or two in New York, perhaps. Not sure. Anyway. Yeah, so, where were we? When some people offer everyone 500,000 rubles to kill, they are easily co-opted and agree, instead of transporting them to engage in the mass murder of infidel citizens of the Russian Federation. Well, you said it, mate. You said it. They carried out this brutal execution of ordinary Russian people. In their minds, nothing prevented them from enjoying the murder of the Russian population. You see, guys, there's the thing, right? I do have a conscience, but I am sort of enjoying the fact that the Russians are doing this to themselves, basically. Yeah, so my sympathy jars are really very low right now. I need to save that, whatever's in there anyway, for others. So he goes on to say the radical cultural and religious difference between the Central Asian and Russian perception of the surrounding world was at work. See, I don't think there is a massive radical cultural difference between any of those indigenous peoples, but there is to the sort of the Russian, I don't know, standard, the Russian sort of like, you know, ideal. Although I think, you know, a lot of those people are a lot more religious than the Russian sort of like, you know, general population as well, or at least they have a lot more spiritual belief, don't they? Anyway, he goes on to say that there is no prohibition on killing Russian people in their faith. Well, usually they just say do not kill, don't they? They don't normally have to specify do not kill, and don't kill Russians either. I mean, they are still people, you know. I didn't realise they had to be singled out specially. Anyway, yeah, he goes on to say that people with Tajikistan have dual citizenship and therefore, you know, there's a big problem. and basically saying we should sharply reduce migration and tighten immigration policies. Now, all of this is all very well and good, Prince, but they need those guys, don't they, to fight their war for them. So they're going to get rid of all their migrants. They're going to push them all out of the country where they can no longer reach them and send them to war. To those people who are migrants, that might actually be a really good deal.
It might be. Sorry, I've been putting stuff in the nest and somehow magically getting the exact same title as we had before. I love copy and paste. But we do have a hand, Monkers. I know that. Just really quick. Also, did you see the Daily Fella today?
I will go and have a look at it. I can see it's up in the nest.
It is up in the nest. Take a look at that. It's pretty. Yes. Anyway, but Yenny has her hand up, so, and she was really perky even without coffee when she talked earlier.
I'm still perky, hopefully. Mockers, you said that it was people with large families. Of course, they're going to be more violent because they probably were raised by having to fight for their food. Isn't that like a common myth?
Well, that's a point. It certainly is, isn't it? Yes. So perhaps that is. The way these the way they're going on basically makes me terrified for what's going to happen in the future. There is a Russian Telegram channel here called the Sons of Monarchy. Can I just check? I thought Russia got rid of the monarchy some time ago. Do they want it back? Oh, well, they have elected a lifelong czar, haven't they? So maybe. Okay, right. So let me see. What he says here, or what they say, is all terrorists have families and children. Well, actually, mate, some of them don't. I'll be honest, but we need to see what benefits they receive from Russia. Do they get maternity payouts, free kindergarten or school payments to large families? And now a very inconvenient question for multinationals will appear. Why are we spending our social benefits on these migrants? Because they do most of the work in your country? Maybe? No? Okay, never mind. Don't you worry. Don't you worry about those guys. You just get rid of them. Feel free. So anyway, if the... he goes in to be very rude about religion there, and he says all of this instantly outweighs all the benefits that Russia gave them because of their ideology. Anyway, soft power is when you seek bonuses for Russia from other countries and peoples, and when you give your money to other countries and peoples free of charge. This is a tribute. The loyalty of others is gained by strength, not by patience, especially in the East. Wow. There is a photograph from the memorial of the victims of the attack as well, which is basically just an area outside the building itself. And there's a sign, and it says, "A visa-free regime kills." Well, that's a bit rude, isn't it? You know what I said yesterday, that I'm terrified that they're going to start some sort of pogroms on, just people. That they'll go out to the shop, and that's it. There'll be some mass gathering up of, Quick question though: what happens when you have zero what's it called? Unemployment, zero unemployment, which sounds great, doesn't it? But then half your workforce up and go home. back to Tajikistan because they're terrified that horrible things might happen to them in Russia, and they might. Yeah, what happens when, you know, all your warehouse workers, all your servers, all your street cleaners and all of that, the guys who unblock those sewers, you know, those sewers around Moscow where they literally have to run around releasing like the gases and what have you. Otherwise, at some point, the Moscow sewers will blow up. Yeah, those guys. Pretty sure they weren't your regular White Russians last time I looked. So you do realise, don't you, that there's going to be a new explosion in Moscow, and it'll be a punami because these guys are all going home.
A what?
A punami.
Tsunami.
Well, you see, Moscow has a problem that their sewers are not made for the capacity. There we go. I managed to say that without being gross. So what's happened is they keep adding to that capacity with, you know, new buildings and things like that. And then they kind of forgot that the infrastructure underneath was only made for quite a much smaller place, shall we say. You know, and they're all about what we can get today and not how it affects tomorrow, sort of thing. You know, that is where they're at. So what can we do today that you know, fixes the problem? And so that's what's been happening. The underground pipework system builds up an awful lot of gases. And we've seen it happen before in other places, maybe even Moscow itself, where, you know, the lids on the sewers, what are they called? The manhole covers. They've, like, you know, popped into the air due to literally popped like a cork due to the pressure of the underground gases in the pipework. Well, yeah, if those guys who go round relieving the pressure on a regular daily basis around Moscow, if those guys go home, they're going to put some other doofuses in charge of that because it's an important job and he's do it. Yeah. But what happens when those new guys don't really know all the ins and outs, if you know what I mean? Because there will be certain places that are, you know, more problematic than others. And there will probably be certain locations where they figured out that, you know, if we let out the gas from here, it would clear this part of the system, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so, you know, they're literally going to be getting rid of the very people that keep them alive, and well, I find that a bit of an own goal. Bit of an own goal. And well, lots of regular people have been asking this question, and I will get into some proper news in a minute, but this is just it's things that I'm waiting for now. You know me, I like to see these sort of situations set themselves up and then see how long it takes for them to turn into a disaster. So this is something else. Persons have been interviewed because, you know, there's a guy that goes around Russia, and he goes around interviewing people, getting little snippets and sound bites from them. And I'll be honest, some of his stuff is very interesting because it's great to see a babushka go absolutely nuts on Putin and what a terrible young man he is. And they can get away with it. It's brilliant. So anyway, people were asked how the terrorist attack could have taken place. Just how. And all of them pretty much say there are cameras all over Moscow. There are actually, just so you know, 22, no, 221,000 cameras in Russia. Just 221,000. Sorry, no, in Moscow alone. Sorry, my bad. And Russian authorities will catch people outside for a post they put on social media a month ago. But they can't catch armed Tajiks after they were warned by the US that ISIS was planning on being in the country and may use foreign nationals for the attack. Anyway, at the same time, Russia managed to check their cameras, and they detained a man who wrote on social media, "Why Crocus and not the Kremlin?" So, just 221,000 cameras in one big city. Now, that is literally Big Brother come to life, is it not? Under the microscope. I can't imagine living like that. I mean, I know we have CCTV in our centre of town, yeah, in our town centre, and mainly because we are a resort type place where lots of people come to visit. And I think our town centre cameras are ace because if, like, you know, somebody's like walking away from the car and they've left the lights on, sometimes the camera guys will go, "You've left your lights on, love." And, you know, so they'll talk out the camera. And I just think it's really funny because I watch people jump out of the skin, well, or at least I used to when I worked in the office in the centre of town. Yeah, the guys in the office are, they've got a sense of humour, put it that way. So, sorry, it still amuses me now because I remember a woman leaping out of her skin like right in front of me, and I knew what had happened. That the camera had talked to her, but brilliant. Oh, crikey. So, anyway, let us move away from the impending doom and disaster that's going on inside Russia because, well, we know it's coming. We know it's coming. And let's, well, you know what? I'll do the numbers in, give me a few minutes, right? We'll do the numbers in a few minutes. You still have to retweet, folks, by the way, because we crashed. You know that, don't you? You did such a good job as well. And we'll talk about the absolute ingenuity and just amazingness of what Ukrainians have been doing, because this is just so brilliant. So they used 8,000 regular cell phones. They connected them to microphones and put them on 6-foot poles around the country to detect incoming Russian drones. By this method, they detected 84 out of 84 drones and shot 80 of them down. So the cost for this particular setup is about $500 per pole plus phone. And just how genius is this? That they were like, "Oh, we don't have an early warning system. Nobody's got an early warning system that they're going to give to us anytime soon. Let's make one." And they literally gathered up cell phone handsets and managed to create this early warning system that listens for drones coming in. And just, is that not incredible? Is that not absolutely incredible? I'm talking to Prince.
Yes, it is. What?
I said, I'm probably talking to you while you're trying to eat.
No, I haven't gone to the fridge yet. That requires energy and effort.
Yeah, I know that feeling. So anyway, where was that? Oh, rude. Right, okay. Sorry, I clicked on something that I wanted to talk to you about, and then something else popped up in front of it, and off I went somewhere else completely. Now then, this is something that I will just have a little chat about because William's with us. The Russian government has ordered oil companies to lower their output in the second quarter so that the country can meet its OPEC plus production target of 9 million barrels per day by the end of June. Problems, guys? So, this is coming from oilprice.com. That's right. I suppose they would know. So, Russian government has ordered oil companies to lower their output in the second quarter so the country can meet its OPEC plus production target of 9 million barrels per day by the end of June. Previously, the Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak announced that Russia would cut oil outputs and exports by an additional 471,000 barrels per day, in the second quarter, in tandem with production cuts by other OPEC plus members, because they're trying to control the prices and make sure we pay sufficiently for their products. Bastards. Anyway, so the country will then gradually ease the export cuts and focus only on reducing the output. Although Novak is yet to provide any sort of targeted level for the output. Reuters has calculated that the production will drop to almost 9 million barrels per day in June if the country proceeds with their planned cut. Private sources, not authorized to speak publicly, told Reuters that Moscow had been given specific targets to each oil company as an indication of its commitment to keep its OPEC plus pledge and support international oil prices. Oh, guys, you're trying, I know, but that's a shame, isn't it? So what they've done is they've passed the problem on to the oil companies, basically. They've turned around to the companies and said, yeah, okay, you do this. Yeah, figure it out. So I like that. Now then, Russian oil and gas condensate production fell from an annual peak of 11.7 million barrels per day in 2019 to 10.8 million currently, due to production cuts. They have not disclosed production or export data ever since it started the war in Ukraine. Well, it seems production has also suffered in the current year due to unplanned outages and new sanctions imposed by Ukraine. Novak's statement did not include a 6-month ban on Russian gasoline exports that kicked in on March the 1st. He probably didn't need to say that. But Russian crude oil and fuel trade has been under Western sanctions for the last 2 years. And more sanctions are being imposed on a continuing basis. Latest one being on a leading tanker group, Sovcomflot. Indeed. Bloomberg has, however, reported that Russia is currently experiencing a drilling boom, despite concerted efforts. Well, you see, they've got this thing that's like a continuous flow, and well, you have to sort of keep up that output or do something to throttle it. There's no sort of like just turning it on and off like a tap. So anyway, they're going on to say, despite concerted efforts with limited technology transfers and the withdrawal of all the, well, we say all the, but some of them are still there assisting. So the withdrawal of the major oil companies, shall we say, from Russia has left local subsidiaries to fill their void, which they continue to do successfully, by the way. Only some 15% of the nation's domestic drilling target depends on what they call technology from unfriendly nations, according to Daria Melnik, the vice president for exploration and production at Rystad Energy. I actually think that might be a bit of a fib, but The whole point is that they're now going to have to reduce their production. I'm not quite sure how they're going to manage to do that, because they seem to have a bit of an overabundance. And I can only imagine that they're going to have to consider shutting down some of this production. And I wondered if Will had an opinion on that. He's got to be here first, though. So I was kind of...
Oh, no, I'm here.
Oh, there you go. There you go. So do you think they're going to have to actually start shuttering some of these wells in order to make that promise?
So I would say absolutely yes. They'll either have to choke them in or actually shut in fields that are producing in order to meet that reduction, because it's not really 500,000 barrels a day. It's more like 1 million, right? Because as we talked about, the laws of conservation of mass and energy. If you've knocked out 13 to 15% of the refining capacity in the country, and you can reliably estimate that they've reduced oil product manufacturing by 400,000 barrels a day, and that is indicated by their restriction of exports of gasoline, diesel, and naphtha for 6 months. I mean, we know it's happening, right? So this is not imagining things. So if they've reduced 400,000 barrels a day of gas, diesel fuel, jet fuel, whatever they're making, they're not going to need about 400,000 barrels of crude. You're going to lose some, right? You're going to produce some in fuel gas. There's going to things go other place. You use up some of it in the production as energy supply for other things. But generally, it's going to balance out about the same. Mass goes in, mass comes out. And if the mass can't come out, it also can't go in unless you've got big tanks. They don't have enough tanks. In fact, because they're an oil producer, crude tankage is really small in Russia. You should have a look at the crude tanks that exist in Australia or America or someplace who doesn't produce a lot of oil. Our crude, those tanks that you're looking at, though, even the biggest ones in these places, those are about 2 or 3 megaliter tanks, 2 or 3 million liters. We had 13 to 15, I think, 60 megaliter crude tanks at the Kernell refinery when I worked there. 60 megaliters. They are immense. So Russia doesn't have much tankage because they're not used to holding much crude. Crude either goes in the refinery and comes out as product, or it goes down that pipeline on those boats or across that other country and out. So the amount of oil that they've got to ship out of Vysotsk or Novorossiysk or Tuapse has to go someplace. And they've been dumping, or they will have started dumping, if you will, onto the OPEC market, 400,000 or in that neighborhood of additional barrels of crude a day, because it has to go someplace. That is putting them over their cap, and they've agreed to a reduction cap by with OPEC Plus at the same time of 500,000 barrels a day. So yeah, in my opinion, they're gonna have to choke in or shut in wells. And if you do either of those things, sure, anybody can poke a hole in the ground, mockers. Well, we've been doing that since the 1880s for oil, and then about shortly after that, we started using thermodynamics to distill it into multiple different products so that we could use it. And now we have these massive complex refineries that can take one thing in and make you a whole different thing if you want that thing. But anybody can poke a hole in the ground, because, like I say, this isn't new technology. But if you just poke a whole bunch of holes in the ground up in the West Siberia or Samara region, and like a pin cushion, you're either going to have to pump the hell out of each of those wells, or you do a thing called directional drilling, and that allows you to fan out around one well into the layer of oil that's underneath the ground, rather than poke a hole through it at one point and have to cause what's called a cone of depression through pumping right there, so that the oil draws in toward you. Directional drilling allows you to go where the oil is, and your differential pressure that you have to generate in order to produce that oil goes down drastically. But when you shut those wells in, they silt up, they plug up with, they get set in, or even slow them down. What Russia doesn't understand, well, the people making this decision and just pushing it onto the companies don't understand is, yeah, you may only be getting 12% of your technical expertise now to put extra pin holes in the pin cushion. You could do that. But as far as all the directional drilling, well workovers so that you can keep wells functioning at the highest level. And if you shut a well in and need to bring it back on, you oftentimes need to do, wireline, what's called wireline work, and you need to do stimulation or fracking, as they call it. And we used to, they call it now, but that's just well stimulation. We've been doing hydraulic well stimulation, acid stimulation, things like that for 100 years. And but the only companies that do that really well are places like Baker Hughes, Schlumberger, and Halliburton. And you know what all three of those companies have in common, Mockers?
They don't work in Russia.
Correct. So they may have 12% of their expertise provided now, but if they shut in a whole bunch of wells, those wells aren't necessarily going to turn right back up to their way. It's not a tap, right? They're going to turn them back on or turn them back up, and they aren't going to go up to where they were. So their production is going to be either permanently reduced, or they're going to have to figure out how to do all this complicated technical downhole work that is a lot more complicated than punching extra holes in the ground. Or they can go punch a bunch of extra holes in the ground, ruin their reservoirs, and get less oil out of those reservoirs than they were going to long term, run out of oil quicker, and then once Russia collapses, the Danish will be in there and show them how to get oil back out of old reservoirs that aren't supposed to even be functional anymore. And people that specialize in that, and the Danes actually specialize in that. So once Russia collapses, and these places want oil again out of these places that they say isn't any oil there anymore, they'll go back in and have to show them where the oil's at. So, yeah, I think this is going to further cause Russia problems in two ways. They're going to flood the market and piss their OPEC buddies off, or, as we said, have to close in wells. And if they do that to try to maintain the price cap, they're still going to face the physical sanctions in the barrels they're allowed to sell, and the price cap, which I'll remind you again, and Beefeater would pile onto this. That price cap was supposed to be reviewed periodically, and Beefeater's made a very good case that I agree with, that price cap should be adjusted down from $60 a barrel to $45 a barrel, and meaning that Russia, it was set sort of at the wrong place. Russia should be further starving its capability. Well, the world should be starving Russia of its capability to sell crude oil at the price that it is, and further reduce the amount of money it gets in volumes of crude, because they've agreed to a price cap. So they get less money for less oil, and an extra negativity on it. Plus the physical sanctions Ukraine's applying to their refineries mean they aren't exporting naphtha, diesel fuel, and high value products. Some of those high value products are worth about 4 to 5 times what a barrel of crude is. So it hurts way more. And it's further further confirmation that Russia's going to try to solve this problem by just, you companies just turn it down. Just turn it down. You can, figure it out, because they all those oil companies owned by different oligarchs in different parts of the basic organized crime menagerie that is Russia. Those people are totally going to get together and agree with each other to voluntary cuts, I'm sure, Mockers, to meet this requirement. It's like having an OPEC inside your country, in addition to the OPEC they're part of. So when Saudi Arabia and Nigeria and the rest of the world find out Russia's cheating, they'll take the appropriate actions to also cheat themselves, and the price of oil will drop even further, because they'll all be flooding the market, and their attempt to try to control the price by restricting output will have failed, gone the wrong way, and hopefully Russia will suffer even greater from that. So it's good news, and it's interesting news, and it fits in exactly what we've been talking about since these refinery strikes started, Mockers.
You said Schlumberger weren't working in Russia anymore. Well,
they reported that they were pulling out.
Yeah, well, SLB, formerly Schlumberger, has announced yesterday that it had no plans to cease operations in the Russian Federation. So I'm just going to say that they probably are cruising for a sanction.
Yes, they should get the United States should threaten SLB with an OFAC listing, consult with the French, and then list them. I mean, it's still a French-owned company, but it's got owners and operations around literally around the world, and could be punished in every market where it's still working if it hadn't pulled out, because they, along with Baker Hughes and Halliburton, had said they were pulling out earlier.
Yes, the other companies did, but Schlumberger did not. Jenny, go ahead.
I just have a question for Will. Is it the Danish or the Norwegian? Because Norway, I know, has a lot of oil.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Danish had to be good at recovering really hard barrels to get, because they didn't have as much oil as Norway, and Denmark, Maersk oil production is a very good recoverer of hard to get oil, or oil that people have abandoned that area and said there's no more oil left there. Maersk has made here, we'll insult the French since Schlumberger is still working there. Maersk has made a career of following Total around the world, where Total says there's no oil, and the Danes go, yeah, I think I see some oil right there. Let's go to the video.
Let's go to the video indeed. There's been plenty of those moments recently. No damage, apart from that massive explosion and flames. Okay, we believe you. I think Sir Shaggy was Sir Shaggy Bars earlier, because he popped up and disappeared again, but he's back. Morning, Shaggy.
Yeah, morning. I was Sir Shaggy Wi-Fi mobile connection while I was checking my van out. I'm all right now. I'm just on the road. I had a quick question for Will. What kind of monitoring and verifying procedures does OPEC Plus have to make sure that Russia and I suppose other countries are actually adhering to their targeted reductions, or how much they're actually exporting?
Well, they don't do any direct monitoring. They monitor the market, and they use numerical analysis to find out how much oil is in the market for sale, and how much the derivative on how fast it's driving the price up or down, and that tells them whether or not there's more oil in the market than there's supposed to be at given price targets they set. So they find out that there's cheating going on, and then they, through secondary methods and cajoling, attempt to find out who's cheating.
All right, cool. Because Russia's not known for telling the truth an awful lot of times. So
neither are the Saudis. Yeah, the whole of OPEC is like a den of thieves.
All right, well, we'll see if they, I mean, I hope they obviously get reduce their output, so that will reduce their walk offers. Well, that's probably just keep an eye on the price of oil. I think it's about 82 at the moment. It's sneaking up. If it gets above like 88, I'll start to get a little bit worried, but yeah, until then, it's in its little range, I think.
Well, thank you very much, fellas. And well, let's have a little bit of updated news from the armed forces of Ukraine. They've stated that they have hit a ship, the Konstantin Oleshansky, with a Neptune missile. They state the damage to the ship is being verified, as per Pletenchuk, spokesman for the Navy. Now, this is actually a Ukrainian ship that was captured by the Russian invaders 10 years ago. For 9 of those years, they used the ship for spare parts. However, during the last 12 months, they decided to restore this ship because, well, maybe they needed it and it was like a ready-made hull. So apparently they had almost restored it to the point of being usable, and now it's not. So just pointing that out. So yeah, that's what they have been doing, trying to reuse that ship in the future, and now they won't be doing. So I don't know the details of exactly when that was hit. There was air alarms last night in Crimea, but this was a stolen ship anyway, pinched off them. So well, it's tufties. It's just one of those things. Ooh, right, okay, people are very excitable. I will just tell you, just for knowing, there's been a ship. Oh my goodness gracious me! That has collided.
Mockers.
Yeah.
I just found a New York Times article about it. So
I'm just
more
watching
news
the
is
video.
coming in.
The entire thing has collapsed, not just like a piece of it.
I know. That's why I sent it to you.
Good God. Right. So.
And I've been trying to verify it since I sent it to you, and I just got a New York Times article. More news is coming out. Yeah. Anyway, I apologize for interrupting you, but yes, more news is coming out.
Tell the listeners at least what we're talking about. So, a ship has collided with a bridge in Baltimore. Now, I'm just going to retweet the video so you can see what I mean. This was a road bridge, so it was full of traffic as well by the looks of things. Oh my God, this is dreadful. And the ship has collided directly with one of the structures, which held up most of the bridge. God knows how it has done that. And the entire bridge has collapsed. Wow, that's massive. Terrifying. And I have no idea how that ship could have managed to do that.
Isn't that crazy? When I saw that, I was just like, well, it has nothing to do with Ukraine, but holy crap, that's crazy. I got to send it to Mockers to see, and then I got to figure out for sure if it's authentic. And then and so I've just been refreshing, and I sent it to Boxed Wine because I don't think it's too far out of her area. Well, it's out of her area, but anyway, regardless. But I don't think that. I don't know how much traffic would be on it at like 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. their time, because it's 3 a.m. now there. But this just out of curiosity, Boxed Wine, thank you so much, sent it to me. It was constructed from 1972 to 77. The cost is irrelevant. It's on the outer harbor crossing. It's 1.6 miles in length, four lane bridge structure that is tolled. That does have a toll on it. It average traffic volume is 11.3 million vehicles a year, and it is classified. Oh geez. Oh, sorry, boxed wine. Boxed wine may know people who are affected. I mean, just yeah, I don't know. But vehicles carrying class 1 explosives and radioactive materials require an escort, but they are authorized to cross the bridge. So it is hazardous material qualified. So yeah, this is kind of crazy. That's all I'm going to say. I know it has absolutely nothing to do with Ukraine, and I apologize for that. But this is just big. You watch this, and it's like, can they send that ship to Ukraine and send it to under the Crimea Bridge? Do you think it would work the same?
Well, it's certainly been terribly effective, hasn't it? Goodness gracious me. And it was a large container ship. I'm not quite sure how a container ship managed to do that. They do pass under the bridge all the time, though, but they certainly don't pass directly into one of the struts holding it up. Goodness. So there we go.
It is absolutely insane.
Well,
Yeah.
if that's yeah,
Would you
I mean, it looks
would you-
confirmed to me.
Yeah, I am not trying to make fun of this, but I'm wondering if the captain or pilot of that ship was Russian and was, enjoying some vodka, maybe. It's just a thought.
Well, we'll find out, no doubt. Yeah, looks like that's a bit of a disaster. So, yeah, no doubt there'll be more news about that. Now then, this sorry. Let's talk about the Crimean Bridge. Yeah, this has brought to mind something that I looked at here and I found it. So, the SBU head, Malyuk, has been having an interview with the Ukrainian media because it was SBU Day yesterday. And Ukraine has the potential for the destruction of the Crimean Bridge, but everything has its time, he states. So, after successful attacks in the past on the Crimean Bridge, the Russian Federation does no longer use it to supply weapons and means of destruction. Before this, 42 to 46 trains transporting weapons and ammunition passed every day. Now, only 4 to 5 trains pass. Host connection issue. Host connection issue. Again, host connection issue. Would you mind sorting that out for me, Prince? Anyway, now only 4 to 5 of them pass each day, and they are passenger trains. Only one is a transport train and is only used for transporting general consumer goods. They do have apparently ongoing work happening to restore one of the supports. And if this is done, they will potentially begin to move ammunition again. At that point, we will say hello to them once again. Everything has its time, but let's not speed things up. We, of course, already have the potential for its complete destruction. So there we go. He's basically said, Taurus missiles, we don't really need them. But, they would be nice, but we don't need them. Not for this. Because we already know how we're going to take it out. So there you go. That's well, it's a comfort to me to know that you.